Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Conversation with Siri. I'm Barbara, your host, and I'm very happy because today I have the pleasure to have a conversation with a young, inspiring woman, Raphy Mendoza. Hi, Raphy. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Barbara. I'm well. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I'm really
Yeah,
happy to
thank
be
you
here.
for thank you for coming and have this conversation with us.
Very, very happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy too. So. Uh, can you just to start maybe present yourself a little bit, like what you're doing, who you are today?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Raphy Mendoza, and I grew up in the Philippines and I moved to the UK when I was about 11 years old. And I've been pretty much living here since, and I am now 33. And so it's been a long time of kind of not quite being British, but British enough.
Okay.
So, and that's not really relevant to my creative work, but it's just a little bit of my personal background. But so yeah, so that's who I am. That's where I've come from, and I founded my company called Co-Create so very, very recently, where I offer one-to-one coaching and a community membership for artists and creatives. And and when I say creatives, I mean like visual artists, musicians, photographers, poets, writers, novelists, ventriloquists, puppet makers,
Yeah.
like anyone who's really has a commitment to the act of creating something out of nothing. And what I want to do with my business and what I offer people is to empower them to put their work out in the world with no apology and be seen and loved for their art. Because one of the things that I realized about myself as an artist and about the people around me who are artists, and I've been surrounded by creative people my whole life, is that deep down, really, and I think this is true for a lot of human beings, we want to be seen. We just want to be seen. We want to be loved. And as artists, we want to be seen for the art that we do, and we want to feel like our contribution matters and is received. And at the same time, we do everything we can to not to be seen. We
Yeah,
kind of
so many
hide
fears are coming in the
so
way.
many fears, so many kind of, like, oh, and kind of hiding and playing it small. And so I felt like there was really a need for us to have a space of support and to be guided to work through those fears and to work through all of the internal barriers, because ultimately, for myself, I believe that the expressive arts is what has us connect to ourselves as humans. It's what has us connect to each other, and it's what has us connect spirit to life. And if I kind of project humanity like 1,000 years from now, with the way that technology and AI is developing, and I think quite an incredible way, um, I think we will find ourselves seeing the expressive arts as the thing with the highest currency, because that's what will be left. That's what's left, and good. But we have to prepare ourselves for that, because right now we're not showing up. Most of us as artists, we're not really showing up as that. There's like, there are the greats, the ones that we know, the ones who are in the media and we know about them, the ones who have gone viral on social media. But yeah, like the day-to-day artist, kind of, um, we're still in that space where we're just wanting to hide. And I think we want to start coming out of that
Mm,
somewhere in this century.
that's true. Yeah, we all have a message, a voice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
something to
yeah,
share.
yeah,
And what about
yeah.
you? You know that, so you are an artist.
I
Um,
am.
and how did you manage to overcome like your these fears to show yourself in a sense?
Yeah, yeah. It's quite interesting actually, because before I started Co-Create,
Mm,
I ran. brand and design business. So I was working with businesses, some in corporate, small to medium businesses in their branding, their design, their marketing, and I enjoyed it very much. But during most of that time, I wasn't on social media. I wasn't really talking about my art. I was doing it, but I wasn't talking about it. I was just focused on the creative work that I was doing for my clients, and essentially putting that in the service of their business. And so I it wasn't that I was unhappy in that particular business. I had a good time, but 10 years was kind of like its shelf life, because after a while I did feel that kind of like almost like an urge, like a calling of like, this is fine, but you're not here for fine.
Mm.
What do you really want to do? What do you want to contribute? What do you want to show people? And so in the process of, you know, creating Co-Create, which was actually an idea that I'd had back in 2020 during the pandemic, I had to really come out of my shell and say, like, no, no, like, I'm gonna show up on social media every day. Before that, I wasn't on anything for like 3 years. I was just completely silent in the public domain, as it were. And part of what um has me, like, kind of compels me to show up is when I'm in the service of others.
Mm.
And sometimes I can use that as a way to hide, which essentially what my old business became. But when I can feel like it was a right calling, that was like, no, if I'm showing up for others, I can show my work in a much bigger context. It's not just like, hey, look at my painting, hope you like it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I knew that that wasn't enough to get me over those fears, over the insecurity, over the fear of being seen, over the discomfort of it all. But knowing that everything I've done up until this point, including the business and all the training that I'd had as a transformational coach, all the training that I've had in, various forms of health and well-being, all the training that I've had in business, in design, in brand, all of that has to be in the service of something. There was a reason. Everything that if I could see it, like everything I had done, all of that plus my artistic work was training me for something. It was this. And then once I kind of got that and I could kind of connect to a bigger vision and a bigger context and a bigger reason
Mm.
to
The
do
big
anything,
why. Mm.
yeah, then it's like, oh, then actually showing up kind of became easy because it's not about me
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
It's not about me. So actually, who cares if they like it or not? Because that's not the point.
Mm.
There's and if there's something that people can connect with,
Yeah.
and and my work's not going to connect with everybody, but something's going to connect with everybody's going to find something that they connect with, but only if we show up for it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And
So
it's true that like finding meaning when you know the why you're doing it, that's
yeah,
a strong why, then
yeah,
you know why you're doing it, your purpose.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
easier to like, okay, I'm afraid, but it's not for me, it's for that purpose, I'm doing it. And step by step,
yeah.
you overcome, yeah, you manage to
You
do it,
over,
yeah, despite of
exactly,
them.
and actually from there, from doing it from a bigger place of service, you get served because then at some point I realized, oh, I want to connect with people. I want to feel connected, and I don't want to connect like, oh, how are you? The weather's great,
Mm.
which it's not because it's England, and like it's like, but like really connect, like really be able to um experience people's spirit through their art
Mm.
in a way that you just can't do through regular language. And when as I was doing this, I realized, oh yes, that's what I want, and that's what my clients want. That's what we want as artists, is to connect and to be seen and to be experienced by each other, which is actually a fundamentally quite a deep human need
Yeah.
if you think about it. And I could acknowledge that inside of that context and kind of give myself some grace to, like, yeah, no, you want to be seen. We can admit that.
Yeah, sure.
Of course I want to inspire people with my art, but that's kind of like, you know, it it's art. Of course, it's inspiring, but like, what's really, and like, what's the deep human desire that we're not admitting to ourselves, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So,
And
um,
have you been an artist all your life? Were you
I
creative?
would say so. Yeah, yeah. Like as a child, there was a lot of drawings on the wall that my mom did not appreciate, and but I love drawing. I love painting. I loved creating things, and I loved reading. I loved reading, and I think from a child, as I was growing up, it's really been a those things. It's the arts, music, um, and books and literature and poetry that had me feel excited, that had me feel curious, that had me, and ultimately, I think I was I had a nickname growing up. I was called the Why Girl
Okay.
because like I just kept asking people why. Like they would give me a straight answer, and I'm like, yeah, but why? But why? Like my teachers hated it, my friends hated it, my parents hated it. But there was always just like this curiosity and like a wanting to understand the human condition.
Mm.
Like it, like why are we here? Like why any of it? And the closest thing that I ever get to an answer is when I experience a piece of art or a piece of music. It's like, oh yeah, that's human. That's what it means to be human, whatever that is. um and our suffering, our joys, our need for connection, our the paradox of being both spirit and matter, all of that is explored and expressed through the arts, like through the ages. And so that's something that's really been the thread for me as I was growing up, but the creativity, but also the kind of incessant questioning
Yeah.
of the universe and its intentions.
The observation, yeah. And as a child, did you want to be an artist? Like, what were your child dreams? Did you follow them
Yeah,
or?
it's interesting because you sent me this question and I was journaling around it, and I'm not sure that I had like a succinct dream. It wasn't like, some kids are like, oh, I'm gonna be an astronaut.
Hmm.
Like, I think at one point someone asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up as a child, and I said I wanted to be a penguin,
Hmm.
which,
Why
it's
not?
like, going on. So, like, I don't think I ever had the kind of like, oh no, this is what I'm going to
Hmm.
do with myself when I grow up. Like, it
Hmm.
wasn't that. But, but even that, like the wanting to be a penguin, it's like this curiosity of wanting to experience different experiences. Like, what's it like? And I remember as a child having this question, like, when I see red, what do you see? Because like I can
Hmm.
tell you it's red because it always looks red, and we refer to the same thing that we see as red, but I can't see behind your eyes. Like, like, so are we even seeing the same thing? And I would ask people these questions and drive them insane,
I can imagine.
like in the middle of the night, it's like, time for bed. It's like, yeah, but I have a question. And so yeah, so I did my school thing. I always picked, kind of arts, English, like kind of the humanities, as it were, and was very interested in politics for a time. I thought it was because I was interested in politics, but I'm not. I'm interested in politicians
Mhm.
and like as like a character of people. And I did my degree in psychology. So I think there's always just been this combination of like, you know, a human being and creativity and wanting to explore that in some
Mm.
way.
And you never stop being creatives. You were lucky enough
No,
to do, yeah.
yeah,
So many
uh,
are stopping, you know. As a child, we are creatives, but then
yeah,
mm,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah. I think there were probably moments, when you kind of get a bit too hung up on your career, like, with the design business, there were moments where it wasn't creative. Because once you've done the brand strategy, once you've done the the logo and the style, you're just creating 3,000 slides of the same thing, then it kind of stops being creative. And when business becomes kind of like just business as usual, then you stop getting creative with your business, you stop getting creative with your marketing, you stop getting creative with how you connect with people. So I think business owners are artists as well, you know, and so there's a creativity in that, but it is it's easy to fall into a kind of routine where you lose the curiosity and it just becomes about productivity.
Yeah, sure.
And I think as well, a lot of the time when people talk about creative thinking and thinking outside the box, they're just talking about glorified productivity, particularly in like, scientific spaces like engineering,
Hmm.
tech kind of places. And I did a lot of work for for that industry when I was in my design business. And it's like there's nothing creative about it at all.
Mm.
It's just, okay, you're connecting the dots in a different way. That's one way of describing creativity, but where's the expression? Where's the spirit?
Yeah.
Where's the heart? And as a society where we value creativity is when it solves a problem.
Mm. That's true. Yeah.
And but human being isn't a problem. It's a phenomenon.
Yeah.
We have problems, but
Yes.
our existence, we can treat it like it's a series of problems to solve. And that's one way of living. But we're a phenomenon that
Mm.
no one has managed to explain.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
we have art for some reason.
Yeah.
So
Fortunately, we have heart.
yeah, yeah,
I know that
yeah.
you're a young woman for me, yeah. You're 33, and I know that you faced many challenges in your life, like burnout, and
Mm,
would you be okay to just share a little bit? And
yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. I mean, burnout and depression for me were very related experiences, and I went through two quite extreme experiences of burnout, once in 2019 and once in 2023, so quite recent actually. The second one was less extreme, but it was the one that taught me my lessons. And so, so when I talk about burnout, so just to describe the experience for people who might not have it doesn't mean anything to them, like like I would be so depleted in my energy and so exhausted that I would fall asleep at my desk, like mid typing, and just fall asleep at like 3 p.m. And then I won't wake up again until like 9 in the morning, maybe even 10. And this went on for a few months. And every cold going, I caught it. My immune system was very low. My like my emotional, mental well-being was very low. I managed to show up for work and I managed to pay my bills. I wasn't creating anything and I wasn't happy and I was not um I wasn't really here. I was kind of just like surviving it. And I had done quite a bit of training, in myself, and in my own self-development to know that there was something I had to pay attention to. But it was really bleak,
mm,
and the level of exhaustion was immense. And although I did experience depression at that time, it was actually before that where I experienced like the kind of the real depth of it. But having the experience of burnout just gave me a realization of um how much more susceptible I am to the dark thoughts that sometimes comes with depression when I'm tired. And that was like a different level of tired. And if I were to look at how I got to that state, it was a combination of things. With my clients, I talk about the seven types of rest. We have physical, mental, emotional, which we all know about. But we also have creative, sensory, social, and spiritual, which are areas of our life that are often ignored. And without the balance of those things, that's when unwellness happens. And over a prolonged period of imbalance, that's when you get burnout. But beyond that, at the core of it all, I was just grappling. I mean, every human being has a particular story that they grapple with. You know, at some point when you were a child, you experienced something, you made a decision, and that's the blueprint for how you live your life and how you behave and how you relate with others.
Mm,
That's pretty much how human beings become.
mm,
That's the formation of an identity. And for me, there was this core belief that somehow, somewhere, I don't know what, but something's wrong with me. And I have to do everything I can to prove my competence so that even when people inevitably figure out that there's something wrong with me, they would let me stay on the planet. And it's quite an extreme, kind of narrative. But if I were to really boil it down, that's what was underneath everything. That was the fundamental fear that there was. And earlier we talked about, like, the fear of showing up and the fear of being seen. It's like, yeah, I don't want I know there's something wrong with me. I don't know what it is. And if I were to become visible, then people would see that. And there was nothing so terrifying, even though logically it's like, what the fuck are you talking about, right? And so much energy went into just the being competent and like showing up and being disciplined and being productive, even though some of the things that I was doing was quite against the way that my brain works.
mm,
I don't work in structure. I don't work in straight lines. I don't have a very good relationship with time.
mm,
But I would kind of like force myself into a particular version that looked right. And because of this kind of driven by a fear of like something being defective in some way. And and other people would have different versions of that story. It'd be like, I'm not good enough, or I can't trust the world, I'm not safe, um etc., etc.,
mm.
etc. Kind of pick your poison. We all have one.
Yeah,
And because it's part of being human, it's the ego um skeleton.
yeah,
So why was I saying all of that? Yeah, that was what was driving the overworking and showing up in a way that just wasn't who I am, really.
yeah.
It was inauthentic, and inauthentic not like I was a fake, but inauthentic like it was driven not by my spirit or by my calling, but by my fears.
Mm, yeah.
And
And so how did you manage to
yeah,
overcome that then? Because of yeah, you had
yeah,
two burnouts, and often
yeah.
it's like if you don't quite manage to be authentic, as you said, you go back
Mm.
to burnout. Often there are many people who go back to
Exactly. Yeah,
burnout
yeah.
like two, three times. So how did you
Yeah, yeah.
manage
Well,
like to
yeah, yeah. That's good because the timing is interesting.
yeah.
So the first burnout was 2019,
Mm,
late 2019, early 2020. I had the idea for Co-Create.
mm,
Late 2020, I had the opportunity to do a program that really kind of solidified that
mm,
idea and kind of gave me a momentum. And I started something. I started a newsletter. That was like the first step of the business. That was in, yeah, early 2021.
mm,
But I was trepidatious and I didn't commit to that, even though I already knew this is where my life wanted to go. This was this was where I could use everything that I'd learned, all of my training in coaching, all of the hours that I'd put in self-development, in training, in studying, in design, in brand, in business, in creativity, etc., etc.
yeah,
I knew that, but I was too afraid to leave what I'd become comfortable with, which was a job that was earning money,
mm,
a business that was earning money without me having to do very much marketing at all. I had loads of referrals, was incredibly fortunate. There's no blueprint for a good business there. I was lucky and I had good relationships. And so I didn't leave, even though I knew it was no longer aligned with who I was
mm,
becoming. And so again, late 2023, round two happened and I thought, okay, that's enough.
mm,
Like it doesn't matter. And incidentally, a few months later, I'd lost one of our biggest clients in the business. which meant 70% of the income gone. So I could still, kind of like maintain my current clients with the team, but I couldn't really pay myself anymore. And so I was cornered by life. I had no choice but to commit to co-create as the new business. And so to answer your question, how did I overcome that? Well, life forced me to.
Mm.
And I had to commit to something that I knew was aligned and keep refining that alignment.
Mm.
And even though when I first started, like, which is now still, I'm kind of working a lot more focusedly, and I'm doing full-time hours, so there's nothing easy about it. But I have more energy than I'd ever had because I'm aligned with what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
And I'm putting into service all the knowledge and all the training that I'd accumulated over the last decade. And there's something about it that's freeing when you're actually like using something, using your knowledge and activating that energy flows. And when you've just kind of accumulated a lot of knowledge and accumulated a lot of training, and then you don't use it, energy becomes stagnant,
Mm.
and then you become unwell.
Yeah, it's true that life,
You
like
know?
you don't,
Yeah,
if you don't listen,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
yeah, you need time to
yeah,
listen. And
yeah,
if you don't listen, it comes back like with a first it's a ooh,
yeah,
and then it's hard.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when it hit hard,
yeah,
that's where
yeah.
you're like having burnout or even disease, or it can be a lot of stuff.
Well, yeah. I
Mm.
mean, burnout. I got away with it actually, to be honest. That because yeah, I could have dragged that out.
Mm.
I could have dragged that out for a really, really long time, and and so yeah, there's something about that alignment, and there's something about just giving myself a lot of grace to experience all the fears that I'm experiencing and having the story that I have, knowing that, while it's not the truth, it's just something that is in my head. It's a part of who I am. It's a part of what got me to where, to where I got to. It's it's what had driven me in my early life, and there was nothing wrong with that. And but yeah, it was just time to grow out of it. It was time to grow up.
Yeah.
And then there'll be the next chapter and the next evolution. And yeah, and I think really also acknowledging that um not only do I have a right to be here, but also that I have a reason to be here, and that was something that I kind of worked through um during various phases of deep depression, where it's like, you kind of have the loopy conversation with yourself about whether you're going to end it all or not. And it's like, well, you haven't.
Mm.
So you're obviously not going to. So can we have a different conversation? Because that one's getting boring. Like in my head, this goes
Mm.
on in my head. Um, and it's like, okay, well, if I'm not gonna do, if I'm gonna stick around, like, then what would I be doing that for?
Mm.
And so yeah, it's like acknowledging that yeah, not only do I have a right to be here, but there's a reason. And from that moment, it was kind of like, okay, if there's a reason, let me figure out what that is. Let me listen. Let me have a different conversation with something other than myself. Let me have a conversation with spirit. Let me have a conversation with God, if you like. I'm not particularly religious,
With
but it's
life.
as good a word
Mm.
with life, with the universe, whatever. Let's have a different conversation with something other than the voice in my head,
Mm.
which has like three sentences to say, and it's on repeat, right?
Yeah.
and 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 I figured out, yeah, like the way that I speak with spirit is through my creative work.
Mm.
And I took my painting a lot more seriously. I dedicated more time to it despite the jobs and so on and so forth. And um and I was able to kind of rediscover as kind of again that curiosity for the human spirit, the curiosity for the human condition. And in so doing, kind of start being able to kind of piece together why I ended up doing everything that I had done up to that point. and what was being asked of me. And through that process of really like when I healing, and when I say healing, I mean like making whole, like acknowledging parts of myself from the past that aren't very pleasant, making whole the experience of depression, making whole the experience of not wanting to be here, making whole the experience of deep exhaustion, making whole the experience of losing my connection with life,
Mm.
and start just literally putting myself back together. And as I was doing that, it's like I can, like, yeah, I can help people do this,
Mm.
and like, through creativity. And even if you don't have, even if you're not going through this, there's connecting people with life, connecting people with spirit through creativity. That's the life I want to explore. That's a good enough reason to be here.
Sure. That's a big, great why.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We need you.
So yeah, because yeah, creativity invites the human spirit.
Yeah.
You can kind of like, you can kind of tease that out, even if you're just playing. In fact, play is the most beautiful thing. You can just play, and you experience yourself, and you experience yourself in connection with the earth,
Mm.
the skies, yourself, everything.
Mm.
And some people like to meditate. That's not my favorites. I do it, like,
Yeah.
and I particularly enjoy guided meditations,
Mm.
and I have quite a few of those resources in my membership library, but
What's your
I'm not
way?
some
What's your way of doing it? So you
painting. Yeah,
painting.
painting. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, but like some people kind of just like sit for 20 minutes to clear their mind and, focus on the
Yeah.
breath. Like that's, like great, but for me it's like I can do that, but the connection is so much stronger when I'm with my colors, with my materials, with my
Mm.
textures, and with, a kind of in yeah, creating something.
It's a meditation. I think
It's a
you're in a
meditation,
meditative
yeah,
state when you're creating something
for
like
sure.
that
Yeah,
with your
flow.
hands.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And also, with cooking, you can get that,
Sure.
like, and so on. So, so yeah, what I'm really saying is just like creativity for me, that's painting is for me is the ultimate spirituality, because it gives me the strongest access to spirits.
Yeah.
And some people find it in other ways. But if you're somebody who hasn't yet figured out how to best connect,
Mm.
and you know that it's something that is important for you to cultivate in your life for one reason or another, then there are endless forms of artistic expressions that you can explore,
Yeah. Sure.
that I think is natural for humans as well.
Mm. To express ourselves. Yeah, that's important
Yeah.
to find a way to express
Mm.
who we are, whatever
Yes.
is that way of expression.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Rafi. It was very interesting talking to you today.
Thank you. Yeah.
Um, so I will put in the description all your links, how to, if someone wants to connect
Sure.
with you, and because yeah, I think you have a lot of to offer to this world. So thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
this time, and see you soon. Okay.
Yes, I'm sure we'll connect,
Yeah, we'll
Barbara. Yeah.
continue. Yeah, let's keep in touch.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so thank
Yeah.
you everyone, and have a great day. Bye.